Oh, hi, I'm Bob Unger, psychotherapist in private practice, former teacher at the Naropa University, etc. The benefits of group, in particular, in the interpersonal field, are priceless. That is, when we go along in life, it's quite natural to think that we know ourselves and we know how we're affecting people and they're affecting us. Well, because of the nature of a psychotherapy group, which is that it's a closed system, people sign up to talk more honestly than we do in everyday life, and it's protected, we get to, or got to, depending on how you look at it, find out much more about the way we affect others and they affect us. And if you think about that, the translation of that into everyday life, when we know how we're affecting people and how they're affecting us, we generally do better. We can modulate our behavior, we can understand people's responses to us, and that generally helps us get along better. And since most of life takes place in the interpersonal field for most people, the individual therapist is, you might say, conducting psychotherapy. That is, they're working to understand an individual, their mind, help the individual understand themselves and the way they function and the way they operate. A group facilitator, a group leader, is a facilitator. That is, they are witnessing in real time what's occurring between people in the group and how group members are affecting each other. And their job, therefore, is not particularly to explore what's going on in any given individual's mind or emotional field separately. Their job is to facilitate communication between group members so that they can observe and help people work in real time, in the moment, with how they are affected by group members and how they're affecting other group members. So in that regard, the job of a good group leader is strictly facilitation. That is, they're not necessarily adding their wisdom or brilliance, but helping the group members tease out their own words for what's going on between the members. Related to that, group psychotherapy is very much present-oriented. That is, what's happening between people in the moment in the group. When I was about 22 in 1969, I believe, I stumbled into a group of Dr. Ormond's. I didn't know about the therapy world, but somebody told me about it, and I thought I could meet girls there. I was very surprised that that wasn't what that was for, but I wound up in that group for not even being able to talk the first 2 years because I had no emotional vocabulary in my experience. And through a painful process, that group taught me to talk, and I haven't stopped since. And through that, I've learned the profound value of a group in helping one identify and put into words their emotional experience, both internally and interpersonally with other people. And that remains my inspiration to this day. Big difference for the client in terms of individual psychotherapy versus group psychotherapy. In individual psychotherapy, the client generally has the full attention of the therapist and feels the freedom and the privilege to talk just about themselves and their life experience, whether it be in the room, past, present, etc. In group therapy, the most difficult thing is to find out the way people are experiencing you is different from the way you imagine yourself as being experienced. It's such a drag. It's so disappointing because most people are egocentric. They just think that they really come off just fine. It's just pretty natural, you know. But when you're in a group and somebody says, well, you know, that sounded pretty hostile or something like that, and you go, well, I'm not hostile, or that couldn't be me, or stuff like that, it's shocking. And it takes a bit of a hardy soul to tolerate that. My greatest teachers, I was very fortunate. I came into the field in the early 70s, right when the modern psychoanalytic movement had really started blossoming. And that started with Dr. Louis Ormond. The possibility of putting so much experience into language and the value of that and the movement of that and the rhythm of that, that he modeled. And I think that's the first thing I learned, is that as a teacher or a group leader, your behavior is primarily modeling for the group members. That it's not intellectual. You might be working intellectually in your own mind, but it's to see modeled in front of you the possibilities of interpersonal communication, especially when you haven't experienced it before, is amongst the most profound, it's certainly the most profound experience for me. The person who sort of originated the whole modern analytic movement there was Hyman Spotnitz, who was a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, who was a bit of a radical in those days because he wasn't very conventional. He was a total master at demonstrating how you can hold aggression and work with the inherent aggression in a group and balance between giving the group just enough feeding so that they didn't get too regressed, but created enough tension so they could talk their way through it. I never saw anything like it. It was just brilliant all the time, and there are tapes of his around. I recommend that everybody see them. I used to show one at Naropa, in fact, that sort of got banned in a funny way, but I have that if anybody wants to see a brilliant demonstration of being able to work on that edge. And by the way, those things they sit in the body. Ormont is in my body, Spotnitz in my body. The person who actually started the Center for Modern Psychoanalysis, Dr. Phyllis Meadow, and she was also brilliant at being sitting in aggression, transference, and unpredictability. That quality does remind me of my exposure to Trumpa, which I did have exposure to him in the early years here, to be when a teacher or a transference figure, a therapist, is able to be unpredictable, that really throws the possibility of spontaneity and getting in touch with your own emotions right back on you. And I have many, many examples of the way I was kind of dumbfounded by things she said where I didn't know at that time that I was unconsciously setting things up to do my repetitive patterns. So that was a big inspiration to me. And last, I'll mention Dr. Leslie Rosenthal, who was one of the founders of the modern psychoanalytic movement as well. And he specialized in groups, and I was in a supervision group of his for over 20 years. And he was a master craftsman. He always demonstrated that you didn't have to be charismatic to be a good group leader, and that was a very valuable lesson to me. He always gave you the feeling that you could do it, and in all sorts of ways. He was never really at a loss for what to say. He had a great sense of humor, but you could see the craft right through what he was doing. And so when I supervise and when I teach, I hope to, and my inspiration from them is to teach as much as possible that anybody can be a group leader. All you have to do is want to be one, and you can do it. What I love about group work is the opportunity to share that very sacred space where emotions are the order of the day with a group of people who are willing to come together and put their vulnerability on the line to give and get feedback, interpersonal feedback from other people. And to have the job of primarily to facilitate that is incredibly rewarding to me, and keeps me alive, keeps me young, keeps me interested and appreciative, really, of the dilemmas of anyone and everyone.